Well, Greg, what book are you currently reading?
I am currently reading, and pardon my French, but You Deserve This Shit by Jordan Tarver.
Oh, that sounds like a book just down my alley because
It's
I'm
really,
not
really good.
passionate about French.
It's really, 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 really good. And I'm not even a quarter of a way through it, and it's already changing my life. So I highly
Oh, I love
recommend it.
books like that.
I
Love books
highly
like that.
recommend it. It's a really good one. Welcome back to Simply Satisfied, everyone. Today I am joined by another guest, another doctor. I had a doctor last episode, and her name is Christiane Schroeter. She is a doctor, she's a professor, she's a business and wellness coach, and she's a best-selling author. She helps entrepreneurs achieve big results through what we talk about on the show a lot, which is small strategic actions. She's got a PhD, like I said before. She also is the host of a top 1% globally ranked Happy Healthy Hustle podcast, where she delivers high performance strategies for productivity, business growth, and well being. She's also built a thriving community on Instagram and YouTube, and she shares practical, results driven insights all the time for sustainable success. She just came out with another book. Her first book, How to Master Your Goals, it debuted as an Amazon #1 new release. And she just came out with her second book, or you're launching your second book, which is called Discover Your Superpower. And I feel like that's going to be the theme of the show today, is discovering your superpower. So without further ado, everybody, welcome to the show, Dr. Christiane Schroeter.
Thank you. And I have to really compliment you on an absolutely perfect pronunciation of my name.
Thank you. Thank you. So let me ask you, what book are you currently reading? Because you
Mm.
asked me.
Yeah, so I'm currently reading Take Control of Your Life, which is an Audible original. I'm listening to books actually, and it's by Mel Robbins. I'm reading this book. This is my third Mel Robbins book. A while ago, I read the 5 Second Rule, and I was kind of like, I was like, I was okay with that. I liked it. Then I put Mel Robbins to the side and read Let Them Theory, which it
That's
was
a great one.
funny. We read it at the same time, Greg and
We
I.
were reading it. It was like a weird coincidence. We were reading it at the
Mhm.
exact same time.
Yeah. And now I thought, you know what? I'm going to give this lady another chance. Reading this book, loving it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm gonna have to check that one out because I've read the other two. So definitely gonna have to check that out. Now, can you walk me through how, because you have a podcast and clearly I have a podcast. Can you walk me through how your podcast climbed to the top 1% and kind of what that journey looked like, you know, overnight, or not overnight, but how the journey looked along the way?
Yeah, this is a brilliant question. I actually like that you kind of corrected yourself overnight because people look at this and they're like, oh my gosh, I want to get there too.
Yeah.
But just with anything, like whether you're talking about Michael Jordan or Mel Robbins, there was a point when they got started. There was a point when I got started. And I have to say, my beginning was kind of crappy, right? I recorded my very first podcast on my phone, my office. I thought, well, maybe I need to have a guest. My husband was sitting next to me, and I was like, can you be my guest? Because I want to record a podcast. He said, I have no idea what it entails. And I said, I will ask you questions. You have to speak into the microphone on my phone. And I think because I started this way and I wasn't overthinking it, it worked because people connected with me. It wasn't edited heavily, it was just me.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer in small, valuable moments, right? I call it petite practice, small little steps that you take towards reaching your goals. So all of my episodes are short.
Mm-hmm.
So it's authentic, it's short, and it's real. I basically share, look, this is what works for me, and this is what doesn't. And I think that people connect with that because they want to listen from real people and they want to hear their failures. And I share everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, and I go down that road and it's working. Yeah.
And so, what's the good, bad, the ugly of your podcast? Tell me more about that.
Mhm. I think that, sometimes you change things in life
Hmm.
and you nearly wish that you would have discovered this before. When reality, it's just learning, right?
Yeah.
So thinking, and I just recently had actually an episode about this, right? Of how I changed my podcasting from my cell phone and how I discovered, well, duh, I could just record on my computer because then I have audio and video and I can even extract the text and put it on a blog. So that's really kind of like what I would encompass in the good, the bad, the ugly. You just have to get started and then you figure out, oh, hey, yeah, that's really good. What I'm doing now is like repurposing content. And maybe those older episodes, I wasn't able to do this. In fact, I used actually some Instagram live episodes and made them a podcast too. But you know what? For me, it's just all learning and evolving. And who knows what comes next, right? With AI. But right now, I'm looking at this as something to where I want to feel that it's a passion and it's a project really showing my passion and that I'm feeling like I'm looking forward to releasing my episode today. Every 2 weeks I'll release a new episode. I'm looking forward to it. And I share that joy with my audience too.
Yeah. That's awesome. And so you said every 2 weeks you release a new episode.
Hmm.
And for anyone who is thinking about starting a podcast or has started a podcast or has a podcast, because you climbed to the top. I
Hmm.
mean, what kind of tips or what kind of advice would you
Good.
give to them?
Brilliant question. My number one recommendation is to actually not worry about that stuff, right? It's kind of like, I mentioned Michael Jordan earlier, or just yesterday. I read about Kevin Hart, right? So Kevin Hart, famous comedian, he might have, you might look at him and you're like, oh my gosh, like amazing. He auditioned like 3,800 times before somebody actually offered him a job. So,
Really?
oh yeah, it's a crazy number,
I didn't
And
know that.
Michael Jordan wasn't even drafted as a basketball player, right? So you look at these people and you think they got it all together. Was their ultimate goal really to become the number one? I don't know. I think they just really enjoy doing what they're doing. So I enjoyed podcasting, but I never ever thought I want to become top 1%. In fact, one of my friends reached out and she said, oh, I looked up your podcast and it's ranked really highly. And I was like, there is such a thing? I didn't even know about this. So for me, it was more, I'm doing it. I'm doing the best that I can
Yeah.
with what I have. I don't have a studio at home. I don't have a manager. I'm just doing this because people honestly enjoy listening and
Hmm.
they think I'm funny. And so I'm just going to be who I am. And the rest of it, whatever. And I think that's the attitude you have to take when you want to start podcasting. You need to think you're sharing something with the world that the world wants to hear, and everything else will just fall into place.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely an attitude to take. And for everybody who hasn't heard her podcast, she don't think she's funny. She's funny. You're you're definitely funny. I checked out a couple episodes. I was like, all right, all right. So let
Yeah,
me.
my second career would be stand-up comedian. Still debating that. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
am comedian in the classroom. In fact, Greg, this is a fun fact. I sat down the other day and thought, you know what? Just because I'm into numbers, top 1% podcast, how many people have I taught in my life?
Okay.
College students alone, 10,000 college students.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, 10,000.
Wow.
That's a lot, right? Hmm.
Yeah.
So I could be a stand-up comedian because 10,000 fills a nice little stadium.
Yeah. Yeah. So top 1% podcast. The journey has been amazing for you. Had its ups and downs, right? Now, there's also you also have another number one that I really want to dive into, which is your first book.
Hmm.
Tell me what is the I did not have the chance to check out your book. I apologize. However, what's the message? What is the why'd you write the book basically?
So the best-selling book, How to Master Your Goals, really came from the fact I teach marketing, innovation, entrepreneurship. And if you look at these three areas, it's nearly like a Venn diagram, right? Marketing, innovation, entrepreneurship. You look at all the books that are out there, and it's kind of sad because a lot of them are very theoretical, where in reality, really, entrepreneurship is so hands-on and practical. And while we need the theory, of course, to drive the numbers, it's still something to where you really need nearly like a side by side. I learn theory, I apply. I learn theory, I apply. So where I teach at Cal Poly, we call it learn by doing, right? So you
Okay.
essentially learn with worksheets in the book. So the book has quizzes in there that help with your self-discovery, learning about yourself, what type of learner you are, how you master your goals, how you go through discovering what your strengths are.
Yeah.
And then it applies it in worksheets. Then it also elevates it by I put a ton of books in there that I recommend. So there's, in essence, like 5 business books per chapter that you can expand your learning even more.
Hmm.
And all that is what I would call non-textbook like, right? So you're not like reading chapter by chapter. You can open the book on any page and you can jump right in. And it might even be a page where there's a word search.
I love books like that.
So it's you open it and it's like there's a word search. What the heck? Let's just do a word search right now.
Yeah.
So you engage with a book. It's essentially like a Lego set, right? You
Hmm.
engage with it. You're filling the pages by filling it with your pencil. And maybe you even use it as like a workbook as you build your business. So you can flip through the pages because I'm helping you put an elevator pitch together. You're flipping through pages and finding your brand message, your unique value proposition, your business model canvas, and all these terms that are important in entrepreneurship without ever feeling I'm actually exposing you to it. It's just more like a playful learning environment.
I like it. And so people can apply it because it's super, super easy to apply, right?
Yeah, it's like I say that you sometimes wonder. It's like why do adults play with Lego, right? Because Legos, you're really building them piece by piece, and you're starting to see the structure and the beauty take, form. So that's the same thing with a book. It's called Petite Practice, and it's part of I have 3 books that are published. So it's part of my Petite Practice collection because each book, each worksheet helps you step by step to get closer to mastering your goals or discovering your superpower is a book that I have. I have a planner. So it really you get in control because you're doing it step by step and it's not overwhelming.
Yeah. Now, how did you come up with Petite practice?
Mm. So you can hear from my accent, born in Germany, super passionate about France. So I speak French. And I am a firm believer that in our life, we are passionate about a lot of different things, right? And that means if you really want to go for something, you're trying, you're failing, you're trying, you're failing. So a practice is essentially a step in the right direction, but it's small. Because if you fail in a small step, it's all right. On the next day, you're just trying something different. So you're going step by step and you're practicing. Like think about the Michael Jordan thing, just practicing, the throws and going for it and getting better and better as you do that. So if you take petite practices or small practices every day, eventually you're going to master what you're really trying to accomplish. You don't need to aim for perfection. You're not going for the horizon because guess what? You will never get there, right? You will never get to the horizon. It's like a moving target. And your goals might even change. But that's the beauty of it because you're taking small steps. You're becoming more aware of how you're growing and you're learning internally.
Wow, that's amazing. And
And it's actually a trademark now. So I'm
really,
pretty proud about that. Hmm.
really, that's pretty cool. How long have you had that trademark?
Well, like I applied in January. There was an increase in fees So I quickly squeezed my application in before the fees went up. And now, it's basically everything that I put out there. My podcast is called Petite Practice Podcast. My books, my coaching, it all falls under the umbrella of that's my unique value proposition is I am following that same logic. Everything is small steps and making you feel like we're going to master your goals and we're going to get you there.
Yeah. How long have you been working on Petite Practice as your unique value proposition?
That's a good question. So the book that #1 bestseller was published last September, right? And this is just me, who I am and how I function. My podcast was published on 3/23/23. My book was published on 9/9. And that's just I do these things. Like for me, it helps me reach my goals. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right. I'm looking at my calendar and I'm like, boom, I'm going for it, right?
Yeah.
So on 9/9, when the book was published, that was the first time the public really saw the whole concept of Petite Practice in print available on Amazon. And some of the first books went to like East Asia and Europe and who knows what. So at that point, I knew I had to become ready and work on my trademark and get that really solidified. I think deep down, Greg, I've always been doing that. And let me tell you a story. When I wrote my dissertation, I actually did the math and I went to the library and I looked at dissertations. So, like, okay, these dissertations are 300 pages. And I have about 6 months to graduate before my major professor is going to switch universities. So, he had an offer from a much higher ranked university. And I thought, well, here I am. I want to earn my PhD. My professor is leaving. It would not be good to write this without him. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide the 6 months, the 300 pages. How many pages do I need to write per day? So every day I wrote 2 pages in my dissertation. Petite Practice, every day 2 pages. When I got to 2 pages, I said, all right, that's it. I'm done. I can move away. And some days it was hard to get 2 pages. But you know what? I basically did that and I graduated. And I think that that's really something that we sometimes underestimate. Like people talk to me like, well, I want to build a business, but I don't know where and how and blah, blah, blah. It's like every day you're going to sit down and you're going to work 15 minutes on your business. You will be amazed at the end of the week what you accomplished, right?
Yeah.
So deep down, even without naming it Petite Practice, I've always been doing that.
Yeah. How come you didn't tell me that earlier when we had a conversation about business?
Because it's a secret for the audience. You got to
Oh, yeah.
Am I pulling the best pieces so they keep listening to this amazing podcast?
Yeah. She was holding it from me
Yeah.
so you guys could have it.
It's like, like think a little bit about like you eating a chocolate chip cookie and it's just like those little pieces that just like are plugging them in right there, the big chunks.
Yeah. That's amazing. And so your Petite Practice goes into everything you do now.
Mm-hmm.
It goes into your teaching, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah.
Is that like a major part of what you teach?
That's a good question. It's really how I teach, right? And how I
Okay.
approach life. Mm. Everything, because I'm a business and wellness coach. So in my business, I would say the #1 issue that people have that work with me, they're, usually like mid-tier businesses really trying to scale, is the overwhelm, the feeling I need to be everywhere all at once. And it's, the outside looking in and what do they see? So that is really something that I teach them. We're just going to break all of it down and we're going to slowly approach each of these elements. So getting that clarity and that confidence that you can tackle it, but you need to take small steps.
Yeah.
And I think we sometimes are afraid of actually tackling the big pieces. So we do like something that's like, I don't know, it may say meaningless, but it's not really moving the needle in your business, right? Because we're afraid of like, oh my gosh, I don't really want to do that. So I'm just going to diddle daddle over here. Right. And then I'm like, well, let's do Petite practice. Let's do a little bit of that one thing you're afraid of, because over time it's going to become more comfortable. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, tomorrow I'm meeting with 2 student teams that placed in the finalists on a very competitive innovation contest. So out of, hundreds of teams, I have 3 of my student teams that placed in the top 10. And I'm going to meet with them tomorrow, and we're going to tackle their presentations. And I can tell you, they're scared of doing this. They're scared of putting themselves out there, getting grilled by top tier entrepreneurs, business owners, professors, because they can win $10,000 at the end of this, right? That's a lot of money for a student. It's a lot of money for anybody, right? But I'm meeting with them tomorrow, and I'm going to tell them we're going to break up that presentation and we're going to slowly approach this. So in my life, I think that it's sometimes the Petite practice that really lowers down that entrance into something that's scary and overwhelming.
Yeah. And you said you've taught 10,000 students. How many entrepreneurs have you worked with?
Oh, like about 3,000 or so, definitely.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What are,
Yeah, because I look at the numbers
yeah,
on my business page, right? And so I would say that's probably the range. And that's not even counting who all buys my book, right?
mm-hmm. Yeah. And so would you say that the overwhelming, like, people, indecision, the perfectionism, do you think that's the biggest problem that they all face?
I think that inherently entrepreneurs have a growth mindset,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they feel like I want to learn, I want to grow. And because there is a growth mindset there is a strive for perfectionism. And many times, because you are operating a business by yourself, there isn't anybody there that gives you a high five or that tells you did a good job, or on the crappy day tells you you can do this tomorrow. And that's the problem, really, that you are thinking, once I start my business, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to feel like I'm in charge of it all. I'm in control of my life. But in reality, because you are an entrepreneur and you're really hard on yourself, you tend to second guess everything that you do and question every decision. And that questioning, unfortunately, sometimes that comes a little bit into like a inability to actually move forward. And putting yourself out there becomes this huge friction in your business, because an elevator pitch, one of my favorite things to coach is elevator pitches. Tremendously scary, right? Think about the show Shark Tank. But
Yeah.
at the same time, you need to do that to attract investors, to get to podcasts, to go to keynote speeches. And so there's just no way around that. I mean, even
That's,
think about your personal life, right? To meet
yeah,
somebody, you probably need to do some kind of elevator pitch, right?
that's always been my kryptonite. I can never, like, somebody asks me to talk about something for 10, 15 minutes that I really know, I can go. I can talk about it. But when somebody says, "Tell me what you do in 30 seconds," I'm like, uh I'm like, "Do you have an hour?" So, we're going to have to work on that in another time. But so the overwhelming, the perfectionism, it's stopping a lot of entrepreneurs. I know it stops me a lot, right? And so petite practice, the small little steps. Have you ever had anybody who didn't, like, actually applied it, and it didn't work for them?
That's a good question. So, in general, for somebody to change, they need to want to change, right? So you can't say like, oh, here I'm Sarah and I'm nominating my husband Brian because he really needs some help. I actually had people that reached out to me, like husbands nominating their wife to become fit, because I also teach wellness classes, right?
Yeah.
Or wives nominating their husband to help them with the business. And I'm like, well, Sarah, lovely to hear from you. Why don't you have Brian get in touch with me? And if Brian never reaches out to me, this wasn't meant to be, right? So you have to think, well, first of all, I want to do this. And then secondly, and in my new book, Discover Your Superpower, we actually just did that yesterday with the students. I have this whole exercise, and it's called Discover Your Why.
Mm-hmm.
I need to figure out, why do you actually want to do this, right? What's really the underlying motive behind this? And it's not like, oh, I want to make money. That's lame. Because at the end of the day, we all will come to the end of our life and nobody will ever say, gosh, I just wish I would have had more money.
Yeah.
No, right? You say, I wish I would have done X, Y, and Z. That needs to be the why. And then why do you want to do that? Oh, okay, why? So what? In service of what? Why? And then when you have that in your mind, that drive, then all of a sudden now we are cooking, right? Sometimes I really push some buttons on people and they get very uncomfortable and squirmy and they're like, oh, and then I'm like, if you need some time to think about this, go for it. But what helps a lot, to be honest with you, Greg, is, and again, we did this yesterday in my coaching session. Start scrolling through your phone or so through some pictures, maybe even look through, young adulthood, and figure out a little bit, if you could go back, whatever, 5, 10 years, what do you wish you could tell yourself to do, right? What would you
Mm-hmm.
maybe do differently? And sometimes there's even like a trigger moment when you're like, wow, there was that person that told me, don't do that. And
Yep.
you wish you wouldn't have listened to that person, right?
Yep.
And that's the moment where you need to go back to. That's your why. You're like, why did I listen to this? This is like,
Yep.
I shouldn't have. That's your why, you know? We all have that one person in our life that you want to be an artist, you draw a picture, and there's an art teacher that comes, looks over your shoulder and say, well, that's crap. And then you're like, done. You don't ever want to draw again. You don't want that, you know?
Yeah. I've had so many of those moments.
Perfect.
Yeah. And so you start with why, right? And I think that's really important. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but I've used this actually in getting to the same thing, getting to why people want to do something or getting to the reason. There's an exercise called the 7 levels of why.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard of it? Yeah.
No. Yeah, I mean, I might have, but tell me about it.
Somebody said that Aristotle came up with it, but I don't know. I don't know if it went that far back. We'll have to look into it, but it's exactly what you're talking about. It is when somebody comes in and they say they want to do something, like we're both in the wellness space, we're both in the fitness space, right? And somebody says I want to lose weight, and you say, okay, why do you want to lose weight? And they're like, well, blah 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 blah, and then you're like, okay, why that? And you just keep going and keep going. You keep uncovering layers and layers and layers. And actually, somebody told me, they're like, if you dig deep enough, like if you get to like 5 and 6 layers, and they're actually digging, they're not just like kind of making
Mm.
excuses or kind of skirting around the question. Most people will have such a heavy emotional reaction. It'll be
Yes.
it'll be hard to hold in. They'll either break down or like, something will happen, change in them, and it's crazy, right? And so I
Ex-
I, I get what you're saying.
Squirmy. And let me give you another example, because I just taught a bunch of fitness classes this morning. And in
Mm-hmm.
my last class of the day, which is called Six Pack Abs, I always have people that are leaving and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to come every week now. Every week I'm going to be here in Six Pack Abs. Well, first of all, don't do that. That's perfectionism. Don't set up yourself for these weird goals, right? Like you can say, I will try to come, and maybe have an accountability party and we will try to come, blah blah blah. But then like sometimes I even wonder, it's like, all right, so people want to have six-pack abs, but why? Why is that so important to you, right? Do we all walk around with bikinis all day long? Is it like a beauty thing? Is it a health thing? Like why? And it's the same with your business. Why do you want to have a podcast? Why do you want to write a book? Why do you want to be a keynote speaker? And then if you're just like, well, I just always thought it's kind of cool. It's like, it's a lot of work. It's just like being a professional basketball player or a stand-up comedian. It's a lot of work, right? That's what they will tell you. That's what Michael Jordan will tell you. It was a lot of work to get there. It's not people usually at that level, it's not talent. It's the hard work. It's the crappy days when people switch off their alarm clock and turn around, or the people that push snooze, right?
Yeah. So would you say that skill beats talent 100% of the time?
It's a really good question. And I don't know about the 100%. I'm always kind of iffy about like the never always 100% thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because in my book, Discover Your Superpower, I'm a firm believer that we all have something that is easy for us and that's hard for others,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the goal is just that you tapping into that, what's easy for you and hard for others, and then really like honing that skill. So I would say that there is a certain level of talent that you can refine, but hard work is definitely needed in any respect. Even if you're talented, you still need hard work to promote yourself and put yourself out there. It's not like people will just run to you and want to book you for the next podcast. You still need to make yourself available. So I
Yeah.
think that we sometimes overestimate really of how these people got there. It's like, oh my gosh, they were just always good. Nah, not really.
Yeah. Now, would you say that, actually, what would you say to an entrepreneur who has put in the hard work and who is trying to develop their craft and is doing their thing and it just doesn't seem to be happening for them?
Good question. So I look at this from like two lenses. A is like there's external factors, right?
Mhm.
It's the economy, it's trends. Trends change so fast, especially in marketing. It could be the demographics, the target market they're going under for. Most of the time, I think it's the visibility, right? So that's more of like an internal factor
Mhm.
that for us to really notice a business and to kind of like make a conscious decision that we want to deal with somebody in terms of buying their product or signing up for their services, it takes so much longer to really get noticed that as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, we usually stop before we get to that level. We're like, well, I already sent 3 emails. It's like, do you really think that that's going to be it? I think
Yeah.
we need to send more like 30,
Mhm.
or I already posted on Instagram stories, I think you need to post like every day so that people are like, oh, hey, there's like somebody popping up on my feed. So what I'm trying to say is, again, coming back to the Petite practice, just small, it doesn't have to be a long email, small chunks, the stories on Instagram, maybe like popping up on somebody else's podcast. It's just really in making yourself visible that's really the number one reason usually why a business owner just doesn't see anything, because they are not necessarily maybe in the right place where the target market is, or they're not enough in that right place, not long enough, not often enough, not using the right terminology that really resonates with your target market. So sometimes it's just I call it a product market mix, So like the blend between the market and the product is just not really matching, right? It's kind of like a puzzle piece. And that's usually what happens. So you don't need to create a new product. You maybe just need to tweak a few words, or just repeat those words over and over again, because we're also overstimulated that we just have not seen it the first, second, and third time. We maybe needed that 10th email to finally notice you.
Hmm. So is visibility the biggest trick in marketing?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you really think about the brands that you feel comfortable purchasing, it's usually brands that you notice in a lot of places. I mean, it's even as old-fashioned as a billboard in an airport. You walk through an airport, you notice a billboard. And whether you read it or not, you still notice it. You watch a commercial on YouTube, you notice a brand. I mean,
Yeah.
it's this subconscious where you bring so much information all day long that you want to be part of that equation. That a consumer really sees your brand over and over again until it's finally like clicking, like, oh, there's like somebody there that's trying to do something that actually would be valuable for me. And then, of course, it needs to be of value. It can just not be like blah, blah, fluff. It needs to be value.
Yeah. And so visibility fits right into Petite practice because it's all about pushing out small, working up to big results through the small changes, right? Somebody who is doing
Exactly.
a post today, you could be like, okay, let's try 2. And then once they get to 2 and they do that for a little bit, and okay, let's try 3, right? Or somebody who is sending an email, okay, you've sent 3, let's send it forward. And you just kind of work them through like the small steps, right? Because if you tell somebody like, hey, you're going to have to send 100 emails to get a result, they're going to be like, what?
Exactly. And what I always say is, if I were to tell you 1 month, in 1 month, we're going to do this, or I tell you in 30 days. 30 days is manageable. You're like, oh, 30 days. Okay. So every day we do a little bit. That's it. So think of like the 1 month, it's like this big rock. You're like, oh my gosh, in 1 month I have to do that. Ooh. And 30 days, I like these tiny little pebbles. And every pebble is like another opportunity for you to become more visible and to show up. Pebble on Instagram, pebble on Facebook, pebble on LinkedIn. And while I'm like no, like saying that you need to be everywhere, you could also, of course, repurpose, right? Don't overthink this. It's not like people on Instagram are really going to analyze it. Did she write this for Instagram or did she write this for Facebook? It's not that bad. In reality, really, and as I said, when I got started with my podcast, just put something out there because progress always beats perfection, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't
Yeah.
have to be perfect. Don't edit your images like crazy and like, does that music really match the movement? Just put it out there, Yeah.
Does this sound trending?
Is this like something that, yeah, my daughter would approve of? Whatever, like just put it out there.
Yeah. And so with marketing, biggest thing is visibility. Now you also teach innovation and entrepreneurship. What's the biggest things in those?
Yeah, the main thing that people really struggle with is the elevator pitch, to be honest with you.
Really?
Mm.
I mean, I get it because I struggle with it too, but I didn't think that like a lot of people struggled with it.
Yeah, it's 90 seconds in getting us interested in your product or your service. That's tough.
Yeah. I mean,
And
yeah,
I would say the second thing that people struggle with is the vulnerability.
really.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I would say, Brené Brown's books are all amazing. But I would say one of her really big messages is you could either way stand inside of your story and own it, or you can stand outside and wish you can do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that most entrepreneurs that really stand inside the story and they own it, they are really feeling they are moving the needle in their business because they're using their mess as their message. And sometimes we want to sell a product, but we just don't know how. It's like, did you ever think, why did you even create it in the first place, right? Did you ever think of just talking about the why did you create it? Like, what made you come up with this idea? And maybe share that because that's kind of helpful. Yeah. And then people are afraid. It's like, well, I don't want to talk about this. It's like, well, then I will never ever connect with you because I don't want to just give you my money. People don't buy products and services, they buy stories.
True. They buy stories. They buy, experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Because do you think that people buy stories and experiences because of how it makes them feel?
Yeah, it could be a feeling for sure. I totally agree with you about that. It could also be that it's a transformation that they're hoping for. Like, for instance, like, give you the worst example. The treadmill that's sitting in your garage right now and collecting dust, the famous New Year's resolution treadmill. Yeah, you look at the box and you see somebody that's totally fit, and it's like, I want to be that. You buy the treadmill. Well, you didn't know that in order to look like that, you have to get on that treadmill, and it's absolutely atrocious, and actually use it every day. Well, I didn't know that. You just wanted that outcome, right? So you buy it because of the outcome that's promised with the product.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many people that I know that have treadmills in their garages
Yeah,
just
it's
sitting
the
there.
famous treadmill. Let me give you another one. Let me give you another one. I have three products just because I teach marketing. These are like famous. All right,
Okay.
treadmill in the garage. Second, the famous foot spa massager.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have one of those? You put the water in, you put the feet
I've never
in.
had one, but I've seen people with them, and I'm like, what does that? They're like, oh, it's amazing. And then they use it for like a month, and then they never use it again.
Go one, two. Go one, two. Yeah. I would say actually a lot of workout equipment is like that, right?
Yeah.
Like the abs roller and all those machines, you know.
Yeah.
It's like all like New Year's resolution stuff, right?
Okay, what's the third one?
I'd say the third one, and usually for me, it comes down to like when I look at my own kitchen, it could be like any type of countertop equipment. It's like a blender or something like that.
Yeah, I could see that.
Mhm. I have a blender. I use it twice per day, Greg, twice per day. And I can give you 5 reasons why you need to buy a blender, but I'm just going to give you 2 right now,
Okay.
right? So if you want to really buy a blender, you first of all need to be like aware, what am I actually going to use this thing for? Am I just going to make smoothies? Because I don't even drink smoothies right now. This is
Mhm.
like total like weird. I'm going to buy a blender that makes smoothies every day? Really? That's a lot of work. So I have to cut up fruit and all that kind of stuff, right? So when I bought my blender, Greg, speaking about like failures, I had gone years going through like the crappy blenders, like
Yeah.
the $30 blenders. And at that point, I was like ready for the $500 blender. I was like primed. I was like,
Mhm.
okay, now I know I'm going to use this. So if you really want to buy a blender, start with like the $20 Walmart blender. And if
Okay.
you don't use it, at least you didn't waste money. But I see people going through Costco and putting the $500 machine in their cart. I'm like, I don't know. Ugh, that's a big commitment, you know. So when I bought my blender, I knew I would use it because I made all my children's food. I made all of it myself. I never ever bought food for my children. Never. I blended it up all by myself. Yep, in that crappy blender.
Okay.
It's actually quite simple because if you really look at the ingredients on baby food, it's just blended up vegetables. I thought I can do that, and I did.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to blend when I was in a gain weight phase. I had the little personal blender with like you just blend with the cup and then that's your cup.
Yeah. Yep, yep, yep.
And I was just throwing everything I could into it. I mean, as many scoops of protein, a full banana, a thing of
Sure.
Pop Tarts, like,
Yeah.
and then just hitting, just go. And but other than that, like, I really didn't use it much.
Exactly. Treadmill.
And so you're saying that in marketing, right, in innovation, in entrepreneurship, they get you with basically this promise, right?
Yeah, it's more really thinking that I want to be that. I want to be the person that drinks smoothies. I want to be the person on the treadmill. I want to be the person that sits there and rests her feet into that foot spa. What you really need to think is, when am I going to do it? I mean, in my day, when am I going to make smoothies? And then why am I going to make smoothies,
And
right?
why? Yeah.
And deep down, because I teach wellness classes and I teach business, most people know how to be healthy. They know that they just need to walk more and eat more fruits and vegetables and drink more and blah 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 blah. But the question really is, do you have what it takes to do that? Do you feel every evening of cutting up fruits and vegetables and making a smoothie so you can have it on the next day for breakfast? Because if the answer is no, don't even buy the blender.
Hmm.
If you want to start a podcast, yeah, I'm giving you a high five. But do you feel of recording material, editing it, and putting it out so that your audience gets it, like whatever, twice per week, twice per month, once per month? Do you have what it takes? And if you don't, then you really need to ask yourself, why do I actually want to do this, right? I mean, that's in essence really what it comes down to. Why do I want to have a treadmill? Just to walk more? I could just buy some sneakers and call it good.
Yeah. So it's really good. It's really good stuff. And I like the whole premise behind why and asking why and everything you're doing, right? Whether it's should I buy this blender or should I start this business or should I go for a walk? I mean,
Mhm.
why do you want to do it? And I think that with your book, you said that that exercise is in that book, Discover Your Superpower, right?
Mhm.
That is, it brings on a lot of remarkable change, right? And you've seen it, right? How many people have you seen go through asking why, and they're like a light bulb goes off and above their head?
Mm. So that I'm meeting tomorrow with two student teams, right? And
Yeah,
the one student, and that's actually kind of a super emotional story. She was in my class 2 years ago, back row student. If you are a teacher, you know the back row student, right? And it's kind of like there.
that was me.
It's really unfortunate as a teacher. It's unfortunate because you don't want to label students, but students seek out the back row because they want to be left alone.
That was me in college. So,
Okay, cool. So back row student. And sometimes it's like untapped potential hanging out in the back row, right? And that student, very driven, etc., but just didn't really know what to do, came into my innovation entrepreneurship class. And I'm like super rigid in that class. I have an industry sponsor that gives out $15,000. And I push those students to create a business at the end of the class. They're going to have a product in hand, they're going to have a business, we're going to get $15,000. We're going to make this happen, right?
wow.
And that's how I coach my clients too. I'm like, I'm not diddle daddling around. We're going for this, right?
Yeah.
So that student, it was probably first or second week of class. Woof, light bulb went off. She was like, this is what I meant to do. I meant to create a product and run a company because I struggled with digestive health. I'm going to create a product that helps somebody that has the same health issues, and there's tons of people out there with digestive health issues, to get over that. And that's the why. It's not, oh, I want to make a product and sell it. That's like an infomercial, right?
Yeah.
No. And in the next 10 minutes, if you buy the product, blah, 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 that's not it. The product is, I struggled with this. I figured out that putting these ingredients together creates this unique blend of digestive enzymes that completely transformed my life from being miserable to being marvelous. And here we go. And that's how it goes, right? And so now she is in the top 10 of that innovation quest where she can win the $10,000. And like I say, the sky's the limit. So
Wow.
it happens all the time. And that's just, one example. I also teach classes for high school students, innovation and entrepreneurship classes. And so some of us high school students become my college students. And they send me emails and they write, totally changed my life. That class was just one thing I did in the summer for 10 days, intensive entrepreneurship class. Totally changed my life. I know now I want to become an entrepreneur. And thank you. And they apply to college and they get into my class. It's amazing. Or the clients that I coach, right? They come in, they kind of like wishy-washy, diddle-daddle. And then I'm like, you have untapped potential. And right now, you're stealing from the world because you're not sharing that. So you're
Yeah.
stealing because you are not sharing everything that you're capable of. And then they're like, what do you mean by stealing? It's like, well, you're not ever letting others know how amazing you are, your superpower. So that's essentially stealing, right? Because you're not really letting them in into all your amazingness. And then light bulb go off. Yeah. This is how it
It's like
works.
it's like doing people a disservice, right?
Correct.
And
Yep.
I like what you said earlier that your story is it's not your mess. It's your it's your message, right? And I do believe in that. And you more than anybody probably that you know part of part of the journey is
Mhm.
realizing that
Yeah.
everything you've gone through is it can help somebody out later on. And I think you mentioned Brene Brown earlier. I think it was her that said, I think she had a quote or she had something in one of her books about like your story will one day be someone else's like survival guide or something.
Beautiful. Yeah. I think that book is called um, Into the Wilderness, I think it's called. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful book. Hmm. Really
Yeah.
beautiful. And in my book, speaking about books, I have a lot of quotes from amazing leaders. And my thinking is, I can't make you read more business books, even though I wish that people would read business books and self-help books. But by
Yeah.
pulling little quotes in, and I put a little exercises in, we're like, okay, so here in this Brené Brown book, blah, 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 I expose them to it in a playful way that the reader essentially becomes curious. So I'm like really about coaching curiosity and tapping into curiosity. And I
Hmm.
think marketing is all about that, or an elevator pitch. I need to make you curious enough so that you want to know more about my business. And that's, I think, what people sometimes struggle with, understanding that it's not about a 50-page marketing plan, but it's just planting seeds that will eventually then turn into trees.
Wow. I like that. I'm definitely gonna have to check out those books because they sound amazing.
Yeah, and the tree is on the cover. Well, you can I'm holding up the book here, but still, yeah, because we're actually tapping into the roots.
Yeah. Tapping into the roots. I love it. Now, I have one last final question for you, which is what is a lesson or something that you wish somebody would have told you or taught you earlier in life?
It's beautiful, the transition here, because we were just talking about the roots, and you can hear from my accent, right? I'm born in Germany. I wish I would have tapped earlier into my German roots and used that as my marketing message, right? So I shared with you that it's called Petite practice, which is I'm essentially marketing myself as a business and wellness coach with European flair. I wish I
Yeah.
would have tapped into that earlier because Germany is known for structure, is known for, transformation, organization. And if you think about a good business coach, those are all attributes that you wish somebody would have. So why didn't I share this was because I thought, well, like, oh, I don't know, like I'm trying to learn the language and get into the
Yeah.
fit into this, right? This is always the thing, you're trying to fit in. But in reality, really using what makes you special, your superpower, and using this as your unique value, like what I'm talking right now, like the German in me, sharing more about that. I think I wish I would have done this earlier in my life.
Yeah. That's amazing. You wish you would have done it earlier in life. When did you finally embrace it?
It was actually just recently, maybe at some point when people really notice the books, right, on Amazon or the way that I teach. I'm very
Hmm.
structured when I teach. I teach 2-hour classes, and everybody always says, I can't believe we just spent 2 hours here because it's like so structured and so diverse and so interactive that the time just really flies by.
Yeah.
And at that point, I realized that I guess it's a skill that I have that probably comes from my upbringing. And of course, not all Germans are organized or structured. It's maybe just something that's a cultural upbringing, the way that I was brought up. But I wish, I would have thought more about this. This is the way that I teach. And people always say these things, and you kind of say, like, oh, yeah, yeah. Actually listen to compliments and reflect back on the compliments and use a compliment as something that it people tell you what your superpower is. You actually just really need to listen to it. So don't just say, oh, no, blah, blah. No. Actually, say, thank you so much. I really appreciate you for telling me that. Really own that moment. And then you're going to grow.
Awesome. Now, do you have any last things you want to say to the audience?
Well, I think that we can all do a better job, speaking of compliments, of complimenting each other, right?
Yeah.
So whether that's reaching out to your partner, children, friends, neighbors, people you see on the street, cashiers at a store, first compliment in a nice word. And I always tell my children, if there's one thing you can be, it's kind, right?
Hmm.
Just say something nice to somebody else. And you will be surprised where this is going to lead you. Share with them. Oh, I have a podcast. No, really. And on my podcast, I talk about this. Just share something with them and just entertain them. People at the store will ask you, do you find everything okay? Don't just say yes. Say, yeah, how is your day going? Right?
Yeah.
So that's my one recommendation to you, that I think we can all do a better job in building bridges, community, collaboration, and connection. And it starts small, but in general, you need to put yourself out there.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you, Dr. Christiana, for joining me. It was a pleasure. This was amazing. Like, I enjoyed this very much. You make me
Thank
want
you
to.
so
You
much.
make me. You make me want to go take your class, just because of how you talk about it.
Oh,
So
I love that. Okay, so this is like a fun thing just because I do that a lot in my classroom. I
yeah.
remember these random quotes from movies.
Hmm.
Do you remember the movie As Good as It Gets?
I've never seen it.
Oh, Jack Nicholson. Jack Nichols, right? And he basically says, "You want to be you make me want to be a better person." Right? And so I think that and that's what I just mentioned, by giving others compliments and by figuring out what your superpower you're essentially turning into that better person. And I think is what I see in my classroom, is that transformation that's really amazing. So yeah, check out my podcast, check out my book, check out my website, and of course connect with me. That's the most important first step. Just connect with me, reach out and say what was a really great takeaway from here today.
Awesome. Awesome. And I will put, for everybody listening, I will put all of that information about Christiana in the show notes. And you can message her on Instagram. You can check out her website. Definitely buy her book. I know I'm going to. So definitely do that. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Dr. Christiana, this was amazing. And for everybody listening, as always, keep smiling and keep striving. And I will talk to you guys next time.
Thank you.